Hey, good day, and welcome yet again to another episode of Business Chronicles here at Studio 84. Studio 84 is a podcast studio here in Bugolobi along Lithuli Avenue. And basically, it's a space set up for creatives and organizations to tell their stories, have their conversations, and along the way position themselves as authorities at whatever they do. For we believe that everyone is an authority at something. So this is an opportunity to, go out there and tell your stories. And today, without further ado, it's my pleasure to host a man who wears many hats, just like many of the people who have sat in this chair. Gentleman, I'll not do him an injustice. I've known him for many years, then lost touch, then met him again in a business space. Let him introduce himself. Martin Roy, please introduce yourself.
Sure, thank you. Solomon, thank you so very much for allowing me to meet with you this morning.
Yeah.
My full name is Martin Roy Lukwago. Now, this fellow called Martin was first an engineer. He did civil engineering, ventured into IT briefly, found it a bit boring.
Really?
Yeah. It's just, it's not different from accounting, I think. I mean, not so the same, yeah, but there are quite a number of similarities. You code, the coding can be interesting, maybe the application, but I found that as a person who had done engineering, there's a lot more I could do.
Yeah.
So I decided later on, and I did all this while I was still working, the IT part. So I decided to venture into another space which I felt could still deploy some of the engineering models, and that was finance. So it took me a while to look out for what I could do in finance. But I also got bored as an engineer. That as an engineer, you're told to do something today, then whoever has told you comes back the following day and says, no, I think I've changed my mind. Now you embark on this. After you've spent a lot of energy, time, and focus.
Yes.
So you do your modeling, you do your designs, you do your quantification, and then all of a sudden the guy says, oh no, I think the market is saying something different. We're now going to do a different project. So I felt I was tired of being the mouse. And I just to, aspire to be the one
moving the mouse.
The one moving the mouse. So I came across a program called Mathematical Finance, and I decided to venture into that. And I realized that many of the models that I used in there were a lot similar to the ones we use in engineering. One like water resources, foundation designs, and things like that. It's all about particles.
Yeah.
And this time round, trying to see how those particles behave in the different value chains we have around us, so to speak, economic activity. So you can take a particle like, being a commodity. So there are many commodities. You've got sugar, you've got gold, you've got the currencies, and the currencies are different. And so the commodities keep on clashing with one another. Some of them, in the sense of markets, can be a commodity being traded with another.
Yes.
And the commodity itself has a value variance with time. So basically, that's what it is, the theory of Brownian motion.
Okay.
So that's what it was, and then bring it back into markets and seeing how best it can be applied or deployed. That's what I did.
If I must confess, Martin, if you continue at this rate, you'll be the only one talking, because you lost me on commodities and particles.
Yeah, but generally...
On this show, we speak English.
Okay, I'll
Martin,
come back.
let's first go back.
Yeah.
You went to school, studied engineering, graduated, went into the workspace and did engineering. How did you moved me first. Did you now go back to school while practicing engineering to study IT?
I did that. And I kept on working and studied IT at the same time.
Then from IT, you went and studied what? Accounting?
No. I went and studied a master's in mathematical finance. So that one, I quit. I quit work. I chose to quit.
Do you love school that much?
I loved school, and I was so particular about what I wanted to study.
Yeah.
Nobody easily understood
Yeah.
then. I tried to look for scholarships. I failed.
Yes.
Because you tell people, you want to study ABC. They said, what? Well, why would you want to go for such a thing?
Yeah.
So eventually I decided to use the little resources I had
Yeah.
and said, if it means working there, doing any odd jobs, I'll do it, but as long as I do this program. But I also got to appreciate, because I took some time to study, understand what it was, to understand where I could apply that. And up to now, I don't regret. So I returned. The first institution I joined was Stanbic, which acknowledged that there was a person who had done this program and they could make use of him. So I joined markets. I joined at a senior level, at a managerial level, something people don't easily do.
Mm.
Being a multi-skilled person, and you haven't done banking before.
Mm.
So I had an opportunity of joining a team where in that role, you literally understand what the bank entirely does, because you interface with everyone.
Everyone.
So that's the beauty. That's the opportunity I had.
I appreciate what you see as beauty. Me, I'm stuck at the part where you go to do mathematical finance,
Yeah.
and yet you're already an engineer. Why not focus on a specific type of engineering? Or did you at some point find engineering boring as well?
Actually, interestingly, the applied side of mathematical finance is the financial engineering.
Wow.
So that helped me understand how vital or instrumental engineering is. There's little you cannot do when you do engineering.
Mm.
There's little you cannot do. So you easily stretch into other areas of life, and you, as long as you have interest in it, you easily adapt. I mean, think about it. After doing all that, I've served finance for 20 years, different fields: corporate finance, public sector financing, development financing, yes, markets, global markets, as I said, investment banking. And deliberately, I said, let me focus on agriculture now.
Okay, now you bring us to agriculture. You
More
know,
confusion.
I have a friend, Agnes Mbabazi, she says, you know, guys, at the end of the day, just like we all die, everyone at some point resorts to agriculture. So you can as well start early. When we come in this city, hustle hard, what time comes in life when almost everyone says, you know what, I'm going back to the farm, agriculture. And then you start practicing it at an old age. You're not fit enough, whether mentally or physically,
Not a
to
good
start
thing.
learning new things and so on. So she says, you may as well start early. I see you decided to start early.
Yes.
So what's with this agriculture thing, Martin?
So with agriculture, one of the things that was rather interesting. Okay, I knew with time
Yeah.
my appetite to be employed was dropping.
Yeah.
By the day, I could feel it. And the things is, I'm not a big-headed fellow.
I'm glad you cleared your throat, but let's go on.
So I'm not a big-headed fellow, but I came to terms with the fact that along the way, when you're employed, of course, humility is critical.
Yeah,
Everywhere you go,
very
humility is
critical.
critical.
Yeah.
But there are times where people don't, maybe your seniors don't understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I got to appreciate the fact that, yes, diversity is important.
Yeah.
But some people have different sets of agenda at a time. And while you are so focused on what you're doing, doesn't necessarily mean that your senior or your boss is exactly following that.
Yeah.
And so many a times don't open up. And I said, but I can be more resourceful. And then along the way, I also wanted to have something I have full control over.
Yeah.
because, and it's not bad, it's not that I'm being selfish or what. I felt if things don't move the way I think they should move, then I am wasting time.
Yes.
And I'm so mindful about the things I do. They have to have impact on society. If I find I don't have impact, that bit of satisfaction just vanishes
Yeah.
or doesn't exist. So I started slowly. I said I needed to do things where I have control.
Yeah.
I began way back about that's 2012. The market's environment is so stressful that one time my wife told me, "What is this you do exactly? Because you even in the night you dream the euro, like it's your currency." I said, "Man, I never imagined to go to that." So I said, "Okay, maybe I need to think." So I took a sabbatical, took 1 year. And I said, I think I can find something else to do. All these guys who walk into the bank, no one ever comes back and says, can you get me a job in that room where you're working?
Yes.
But they come here and we serve them. They say, it's scorching out there. I said, let me try it out. So I decided to go and try. I think I'm not big-headed again, I say it, but I think this head can do so many things.
Martin, hold that thought. This sabbatical thing, I see some people. No, I am taking a sabbatical. Why do I feel like it's a thing for fancy people, for privileged people, so to say? How do you even decide to take a sabbatical for a year? How much money have you saved to decide that I have to take a sabbatical?
Correct. So all these guys who work out there, they don't first save money. They first choose to fly with a wave. Now,
Yes.
that's a call that everybody has to make. If you don't make it, they'll grab you by the rear of your head and push you somewhere. So the earlier you do it, the better. Try out something. Try. Go ahead for God's sake and try out something. And I know that we are all created to have that aspiration to try something. So you only find yourself when you move out. So I said, I didn't have enough money, but I felt I could try agriculture where I have full control. So someone had told me about greenhouses. I said, you know what? If I did the maths, I did some financial projections, I felt I could do it. Man, yes, I tried it. And I specifically chose to grow tomatoes. And a specific type of tomatoes, which I knew I'd done some market survey that Serena Hotels wanted them. ShopRite then wanted them. Some areas in some traders in Nakasoro Market wanted them.
Yes.
Nakasoro Market has now become way back became a market for the high end,
The elite.
the wives to
Yes. Ambassadors and
expatriates
expatriates and stuff. Yes.
So I said, let me target this. So I started from the markets, trading currencies, and interest rates. I said, I've had enough of this. Let me go and try it out here. So I did so, and somewhere I was hit below the belt because there were some diseases which I did not know. And they hit me so hard. And I said, okay, I turned back, look at my kids. I said, I can persevere through this, but when I look at my kids, let me not stress them. Things went, berserk.
Yes.
So I said, I've invested all this money, all the infrastructure. What do I do? So let me leave my boys to do whatever I want to do with the infrastructure. Let me first go back and get a job.
Wow.
So, interestingly, I came across Mr. Chisame, and he told me, the former MD, DFC, he says, Jiman, where have you been? Hey, come, I have something for you. He says, come like tomorrow, 8 o'clock, I want to talk to you.
Wow.
So I went and talked to him, and then he said, I need you to help me break into the corporate space. That's how it was. And in a few days' time, I started work. So I didn't look for him. We came across each other. I went for a conference.
Yeah.
It was a market conference. And it was actually commodities, one of those things that they used to run for oil and what. I said, let me just go and attend this thing. So I met him there. And I think they're also trying to pitch for business for oil
Yes.
and gas. And so he says, come. And then in about 2-3 weeks, I kicked off. But it was not what I wanted because it was far smaller a portfolio of work.
But it was good enough to get you out of the tomato hole.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was a tomato hole. But I never gave up on agriculture because the few moments that were good were really good. I said, I can have control of a certain revenue stream. So I went back.
I worry that for someone looking for something they have control over, agriculture should be the last thing because you don't have control over many things.
Correct. But when the times are good, then
Yeah, the time.
so the mitigants is something that one needs to look out for. So I went back and it kept on itching my mind. I said, okay, what is it that I can do again in agriculture? I knew that there's something in agriculture. To that, I went back and worked for another 9 years. 9 years. And when I did the 9 years, so I went and did, I spent only 2 months in DFCU. Something came up.
Did you get him the corporate?
Well, I told him that, to be frank with you, there's some things I cannot change here, and I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
If you want me to change them, then give me that role of head of markets here. But I know you can't do it now, so I'm not going to waste your time. But I appreciate I want to maintain my close relationship with you. So up till now, he's such a close friend.
Yeah.
So something came up, and Uganda Development Bank wanted to open up a treasury.
Yeah.
A fully fledged treasury office. So I took it up and kicked off with the work. There are some things that any markets team wouldn't do there, like prop trading. But I was happy that I was given a responsibility to mobilize resources for the whole bank.
Wow.
In collaboration with the managing director. And that I did very well with all the happiness I could ever have. A person who heads treasury to be the one to mobilize resources, that's not something you easily find with the bank.
No.
Normally that's done by, MDs. But this time around, I had the opportunity to do it. So anyway, I did that for about 4 years, and then I joined Barclays Bank, which then became ABSA. I did that, and I felt in my mind that I should serve for 5 years. So within those 5 years, I started poultry.
I would say you have more control with the poultry than with tomatoes.
Yes, there's a bit more control. There are some things. Poultry has so many knobs, very many knobs, but it just needs time. So
as long as you can touch the knobs. My worry with tomatoes is that there are knobs you can't touch.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's some similar knobs in poultry, like the price control. You have no control.
Yeah.
That's common for every commodity anyway. But you can have control. It's just the capital intensity is quite huge. But I always wanted to start. So I started small.
So why poultry, Martin?
Because way back while I was still growing up, my mother reared some few birds.
Okay.
And she said, I'm rearing these birds because I want my children to eat some eggs. Times were hard, were really hard. The old man's liquidity position was dwindling so fast. So my mother, as a civil servant, decided to rear some birds, and I started appreciating them. She had some liquidity around her.
Yes.
She had some loose money.
Somehow.
Yeah, I didn't know any financial management then, but I could see that she could do some few things. So by God's grace, we persevered through those times. And so I said, this is something, if I could venture into. So a friend of mine, Emma, just spoke to about a few minutes back.
Yeah.
While I was going for a sabbatical, he says, I'm going to look into poultry. So when I started poultry, he had been into poultry like 9 years back.
Wow.
He was big. Emma was big. So I decided to use him as an icon or as a reference. Him and a few other friends of mine started visiting them. So I could leave work 6 o'clock, and I called him and said, where are you? I'm at the farm. I'm coming. 6 o'clock. Whether it meant taking a border to the farm, park somewhere, go there, do a lot of benchmarking, ask him a lot of questions. And all that went on anyway. Until I said, but your things are so big, I don't know where I can start from. And then I met another person, a friend of mine again, called James. I used to work with him sometime back in Chevron. He had some structures. They were not the best, but they could enable somebody to start. I said, but I'm an engineer. These things I can't do.
I can't build myself.
So let me take some time. I build structures because that's a big cost. While I'm still employed, let me start them. So that's how I started. And I started with, I knew I had land. As a family, we had land in Mukono. We had bought some time back. But I felt I couldn't start from a distant joint. So some friends of mine who had bought some land nearby us, where we stay in Chalwajara, Namgongo, they stay in the UK. I told them, can you allow me to use your land? Just give me 5 years to be your call. When I'm done with the 5 years, if you want, you can give me another. You can roll over. But I believe within 5 years, I will have started in Mukono. So I'd done some financial projections, had everything well done on paper. Said, I think I should start with a small number.
What's a small number in this case?
Some people may look at that as punitive, but I began with 2,500.
Exactly. Because there's once upon a time, even I looked at birds. I said, then I looked at the space I had. It could fit around 200 birds. That math failed to math. I said, in this bird thing, there is a minimum order quantity. That has to make sense.
And there are ups and downs, but you persevere. You just need time. So because I didn't have all that much time, I chose to specifically objectively keep it close. So every day, every morning, 5 a.m. I was there. Then I should take my kids to school, 6 o'clock. And when I'm back, 7 o'clock, I'm there. So I said, Mama, you make sure you help the kids with their homework. I've gone down. So I kept on doing that, and that went on. I expanded in that small space. It was about 70 decimals, up to about 8,500 birds. And then I said, you know what? I need to start building infrastructure in Mukono. And so we're in Mukono now. So that's just briefly what I do.
What a brief intro that has taken all our show.
I forgot something. Just one more thing. I forgot. So while doing poultry there, there are few hazards with poultry. The waste management, the flies, and around us there's a hospital. And there's a 20 apartments building. And then of course on the other side their homes. So one neighbor came and told me, why don't you go to Ugachik and they teach you how to rear birds? In my mind I said, you don't want to know what is in Ugachik. You go there, go find out what they do with their waste. Anyway, I chose again to deviate a little, look at ways in which I could manage the waste, and we registered progress in that regard. We put up a biodigester and a watering machine, and the place was odorless,
healed,
no flies, super. So I said, now with all this clean manure that we get, what do we do with it? So I subjected my wife to deep thought. She came up with ideas and said, okay, why don't we go into something that can help us put value to this manure? And that's when we thought about coffee. And then another story began. You can't rent land
to do coffee.
In this country, I don't know whether it happens. Happens in other countries, but in this country, you don't go and hire land to grow coffee. It's a perennial crop.
Yes, it is.
So we had to buy land. So we had to look out for land, and fortunately, by God's grace, we found land that we bought 35 acres in Nakaseke. So that's now another story, but to date, we are growing coffee. Out of the 35, to date, we've planted about 23 acres. And still planting till we finish it.
Martin, I have to go back to the birds. We laughed about it, your definition of small number, my definition of small number. For someone who is trying to venture into that, can you help them? What's the definition of a small number that makes business sense? Not your mother's number for children to eat eggs and whatever, to make business sense with all the experience that you have?
So there are two questions you've started with. I mean, you presented.
Yes.
There's a small number to start with, and what number makes business sense?
So are you
You see,
the small number that makes business sense?
okay. I think a small number that makes business sense is 10,000.
So even with 2,000,
There are quite a number of variables,
yeah,
and you can get excited when the times are good, price
yes,
is good,
yes, yes,
11,000,
yes.
11,500. But when the price drops, there are so many expenses that are maintained as a constant, even when the price drops. And yet, if you have bigger numbers, some of those cash outflow line items remain,
Yes.
perhaps where they are.
Yeah.
So you leverage off the significant volumes that you would be registering, like volumes of eggs produced. So if you go to a smaller number, all these hit you below the belt, and you have no turning point. So eventually, if you're not careful, you can choose to first close down. Now, the worst thing you can ever do in poultry is to choose to close down, because starting afresh is similar. Even if you have infrastructure, you're certainly better than a person who doesn't have infrastructure. But starting afresh from ground zero is not much different from a person who is doing it for the first time. So you need to have working capital set aside. My type of poultry is layer birds, egg production. So you must have that window 4 to 5 months when the birds are not laying.
You're just feeding them.
You are feeding
sinking
these little
cash,
girls.
like building the foundation
My
of a
goodness.
building.
With the foundation, you can even know the dimensions and what. But with the birds, you have prospective revenue streams, but everything is coming from your pockets. And yet, when you are in production already and you bring another batch, your other batch can help you support
Yes,
the liquidity demands for
Yes.
feeding those birds.
yes, yes.
So it's a very painful experience. It's a very painful experience. You're better off having a slightly bigger number looking after a smaller number, yeah, with the hope that, okay, it's another investment, short-term investment, like you buying 91-day treasury bills. You know that the spiral effect is quite big. When they start production, you know that they will produce a lot more, feed themselves, and give you more money. So that pain, 4 to 5 months, is one of a kind. So if you're doing smaller numbers, either you must be having a significantly sizable coffer, or coffers of money,
Yes.
where you are picking the money from. But not everybody is privileged to do that.
No.
So if you're employed, well and good, you have some money and you know how much you get anyway. Numbers don't lie. So you know that you can perhaps offset some money and put it into the birds.
Yeah.
But if you're not employed, or if you don't have that source, that
Yeah.
resource,
Yeah.
then it's a problem. But even if you're employed, you can't drive 2 cars. Time comes when you realize, Chief, this car called employment, yes, I'm happy I've done it. I've picked a lot. I've done a lot of learnings from here. But I need to go and focus on the other car.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't sit in 2 cars and drive them both.
How was the COVID time?
COVID was bad. It was bad. The first one wasn't so bad for me because it came at a time when I still had young birds. Now, when I was in employment, I could run with one batch because I didn't have enough space for very many houses. I could run with one batch, sell it off, start afresh. And that, I had some bit of learnings from that. I wanted to count myself as one of the significant egg suppliers in the country. So, but you can't be on and off.
No.
You can't drive that.
No.
What kind of car is that? You drive 2 kilometers, come back 1, or come back to 2 again, go back. So eventually, if you want to go to Masaka, man, you'll never arrive.
Yeah.
So you have to be persistent, set up another one. That's why I had that orchestrated plan to start in Mukono. Now, this COVID one, by by the time it kicked in, I had a young batch. So it helped me. While others were suffering where to find, market for their eggs, I didn't have eggs.
You are just feeding the
Yes.
chicken.
And the beauty is that at that time, trucks were allowed to move. So I had some loose money because I was employed. So trucks were allowed to move, so I could buy, maize and all these things, the concentrates. Trucks could move. They could supply. The second one.
When you had eggs.
I had the second one hit me so hard. But I can assure you, I really thank God. I had to downscale from 8,500 to 2,000.
Back to the basics of 2000.
It kept on hurting me, but I felt that's what I had to do. Now, many people, and I'm saying I'm lucky because I didn't close down. Many people shut down. So that 2,000 was still something. There's still something compared to the several people I knew around. Very many people closed. If it was a station, they closed down their stations. Wow. It was bad. So when God enabled me to get up slowly, I'm grateful.
Martin, I have heard you. I have just two questions. We are way past our time. We usually do 30 minutes for Business Chronicles. Okay. But I have heard you dissect egg statistics and the importance of that egg protein to children, to human beings, and all that. First, take us to why do you feel eggs are important to people, and what are the statistics for this country, and maybe compared to statistics to another economy or place in the world.
So this is interesting. First of all, eggs provide proteins, provide vitamin A, and I don't want to go into the intricacies of what is required as per the nutrients within the eggs. But an egg is the only most affordable, and I'm very specific with my words, most affordable holistic food that there is on this planet Earth. I'm saying you could find others like milk.
Yes.
But I say most affordable.
Most affordable,
because the egg is produced while fully packaged. All I need to do is to pick it, put it on a tray, and put it on a shelf in a shop or wherever. So it's easier to carry, quite sensitive because it's quite fragile, but it's easy to carry. But when a cow produces milk, man, go ahead, transport it wherever, put it in a chiller, then pasteurize it, then afterwards package it in a cavera, whatever packaging they use, bottles, then keep it chilled, depending on what level of value addition you have. I mean, it's too much work. So I'm saying, I'm in Africa, and I know exactly what it is or what it means to have a meal readily available, just in time. So, can I boil the egg? Yes, that's value addition. How much does it cost? Peanuts. Can I pocket the egg? Yes, if I'm a child. Can I go with it? Can it last a whole day after boiling it? Yes. So, I mean, these are the simple, basic things that when I look at them, I feel I'm adding value. So I'm very happy to be part of the value chain, food value chain. Secondly, our consumption of eggs is so terrible. Statistics have it. In the urban areas, you'd have an average of about 52 eggs per capita consumption. 52 eggs per person per year.
That's an egg a week.
That's an egg a week. That's still terrible. Very terrible. But on the national scale, it's about 26 eggs per person per year. That's one egg for every 2 weeks.
So for people who can eat an egg almost every day, there are those that cannot eat an egg in months.
Yes, absolutely. Now, what is the impact to our health? You feed poorly. And I'm very specific. It's the most affordable. Because taking eggs is even cheaper than taking beans. Beans are not cheap. 5,200, 5,500 a kilo. So if you have 3 kids, how much are they going to consume?
A kilo of eggs is hardly 2,000.
So a tray of eggs is, as we speak right now, okay, let me take the retail space, 13,000.
Yeah.
That's retail space.
Yes.
So 13,000, you have 3 kids. How long are they going to take, including you, the parents? You will take some eggs for some time. It doesn't necessarily fill your belly. But if you look at the food value,
Yes.
the content,
Yes.
it's good. You can supplement it with, in the villages, even if you supplement it with cassava, that's a good diet. Add some greens. That's a balanced diet.
Yeah.
You're feeding better than a person who is here chewing sausages and enjoying an AC in an office.
Yeah.
So, so coming back, our consumption is very bad. I am a member and I chair the Association of Commercial Layers, Farmers in Uganda. And we chose deliberately to operate under the umbrella of Poultry Association of Uganda. So it's an association within an association. And our drive right now is to try and convince people that, number one, it's feasible, it's possible for you to consume an egg a day. If you don't do that, at least try to tune yourself to taking an egg in a week. Try. But the impact of our poor feeding in the country is the poor resilience for the body to fight diseases around us. And I believe, I may not have the statistics or the scientific details to back this up, but I know that the age limit here is a lot driven by the way we consume, or we feed, sorry. So can we also now take it back to the children? That the children do not grow as they should, as in fast enough. They don't develop, their organs don't develop fast because of the way they feed.
They feed.
So if you have a good feeding pattern, you eat well, your resilience to the diseases around us is also aged up.
Yeah.
So can we go ahead and understand that, as the Bible says, my people will perish because of lack of knowledge? I mean, still follows the same trend. You don't feed well, a disease comes, an outbreak comes, and it hits you, sweeps you off the ground, and eventually we spend more money. So as a country, maybe the government could pick this up. Can we focus a lot on feeding the children?
Yes.
So that we spend less on medical services?
Eventually, yes.
Yeah, not that I don't want the doctors or nurses to earn money, but they will still have money. After
They
all,
still will.
the ratio is still too small compared to what is required. But we can do something. So I'm very happy right now to be part of that drive. It may not be fully documented or strategically followed, but one and one makes a bundle. Somewhere along the way, some people will join the wagon.
One makes a bundle.
Yeah.
Martin, you have really lived quite an action-packed life, quite an eventful life, if I must say, for lack of a better way of putting it. What inspires you? Is there a book, a saying, something you heard in school from parents or something that keeps driving you to go get these things done?
So first and foremost, for me, anything that has an impact on society, a positive impact, that just drives me crazy. I have visited places, and somewhere I thank God that I was born in Kampala, that I've given birth to children in Kampala. People simply want to earn a living. That's what people want. They want to earn a living, look after their families, look after their children, take their children to school. So if I look at the people that myself and my wife employ, every time I want to change or shift in strategy to something else, like a different economic activity.
Maybe also cut back to 2000, but
well, as well.
Yeah.
As well, every time I cut. I mean, right now we're in a very tough time where the price of eggs has dropped. Now that's another story.
Yeah.
It drops because of several factors within the economy. You can imagine we don't consume enough, but the price drops.
But the price drops.
So that's a different discussion. But so the price has dropped significantly, and yet the retail price is still the same. And yet, the cost of feed has gone higher. The maize that was harvested, has dwindled in volumes out there in the market. So the demand for maize is going up, and maize has a very significant impact on the cost of feed.
Yeah.
So don't be surprised to see some people, selling off some birds to downscale. But again, many speak to that. But if you are to do that, there are quite a number of people that will affect.
Yes.
If you've got 50,000 birds and you decide to sell off 10,000, there are people who look after those birds.
10,000, yes.
They feed the birds on a daily. They collect the eggs. There's another person who collects the waste every day, who takes it to wherever you put it. In our case, we're using solar dryers. Someone's job has to be cut. And for what reason? I can't even explain. Because 1 month down the road, the price will edge up. The demand will peak.
Yeah.
So you cut off someone's job, and to bring them back, you've sold off a batch. For you to replace that batch, it will take you another 6 months. So that person is going to be out of jobs for that.
For 6 months, yes.
So we need to be mindful of whatever we do. So you become the shock absorber, so to speak,
Yes.
as an entrepreneur. But bottom line is, can we be mindful of what we do in society? Because we have an impact on a person around us. When you pay persons, when you release salaries for people, your workers, they get some money, they pay school fees, they feed their families, they do some little investments. The wives at home go ahead and do some investment. The ripple effect is enormous.
Just changing one person's life, I'm told you're changing a life of at least an average of 5 people per person who works for you.
Yes.
And that, Martin, for me takes me back to what you say about what inspires you, impact.
Yeah.
So everything that you do has to have impact. So everything in society that has impact has your heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Martin.
Just one more thing.
Yes.
I picked something. You asked me, where did I get this inspiration from?
Oh, yes.
In the commercial banks, you do a lot of, you're given a budget, you don't even know where the budget is coming from. You can contribute to that budget, as in its derivation, but you wake up every morning and you're thinking the budget, the budget, the budget, the budget. When I worked in development finance, I learned that there's more to life than simply meeting the budget.
Than the budget.
That
Explain that, Martin.
you can wake up and make all the money that there is or that God has provided for you.
Yeah.
But if you don't really show God that you're instrumental to supporting other people, you are useless and worth nothing. John Rockefeller made a lot of money. At the age 51, he owned the biggest number of oil wells in the whole world.
Yeah.
At age 51.
National.
He had more oil wells than anybody, and he could manipulate the U.S. economy in the way he wanted. He could drive the economy.
Yes.
And the ones that were driving the economy at the time. So he got some infection. I don't know what infection it was, but it was quite terminal. And his physician told him, and this I read from a story. His physician told him that, Chief, I'm sorry, but I need to be open to you. You only have 1 year. So because and that disturbed him. And then he said, I am not so sure I'm happy to go on with this. Can't you do something? He says, it's not good to tell bad news, but you have to tell
it is what it is.
So he says, okay, you don't seem to know much about this disease that I'm suffering from. I think the problem is around research. I want to contribute to research. So he called his CEOs and attorneys and gathered them and said, I want us to do something. I only have 1 year. I want us to find a way of contributing to research in the health industry, health sector. And then that comes along with support, charity. So let's guide me on what we need to do in the 1 year that I have to live.
Yeah.
And with time, they started the Rockefeller Foundation. So his drive, that in spite of all the energy he had put in, you know, acquisition of oil wells here and there, his day-to-day call was how to support the research industry and charity to develop a lot of ideas and knowledge about the different diseases. His brain was wired differently because he had a fresh goal to support society.
Yes.
God is amazing. How he changed that guy's body. He lived another 40 years.
Wow.
40 years.
From 1 year guaranteed.
He lived a happy man. So for me, everywhere I go, I use that to communicate to the people. Do something for society and you'll be instrumental. Do it for yourself, you'll see it collapse and you die within it like you die in your own movie. You know that saying that normally goes, someone is dying in his own movie.
It's supposed to be the star.
So
wow, Martin. Wow. I can't move this conversation further because we may spoil it. I think that's a good way to end this. Thank you very much, Martin. Why do I feel like we have hardly scratched the surface? Because I asked you to introduce yourself and you took 30 minutes. That's the time of the show. I feel like we've ended in the intro. But we'll definitely be back, Martin. I know someone somewhere has learned something. And if you must take one thing from this conversation, whatever you do, have impact. Yeah. Thank you very much. See you on the next episode of Business Chronicles. Thank you very much, Martin.
Thank you, Chief.
All right.
My pleasure.